What's going on guys, Drake here, welcome to another military reaction. In today's reaction we're going to look at Delta Force. What does it take to become a Delta Force member, and also when did Delta Force get founded and what is the objective? And if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and also leave a like. Let's get right into this reaction. So I think we're going to look at first what it takes to become a Delta member. Yeah, let's have a look.
They are the Army's Tier 1 Special Missions Unit, known as Delta Force, or simply the unit.
Yeah, they go by many names, all of them unofficial.
For those on the inside, it's just CAG, Combat Applications Group.
Because no one speaks of Delta Force officially.
And many who get there start here at Fort Benning, qualifying as Army Rangers. These are some of the toughest of the tough.
What you're doing is you're taking elite soldiers out of Special Forces and Rangers, and you're training them to ridiculously high levels.
It's from these ranks.
Yeah, so straight away, Delta Force, same as the SAS and SBS in the United Kingdom. You find out very little about them, obviously because they're secret units, it's all hush hush, so it's very difficult to make any type of videos about them. The last time the SAS, were filmed, where I believe it was in the 80s in London. Very difficult to find, a lot of good footage about them. So usually it's retired people who talk about it, that type of stuff. So, in reading books, obviously. Straight away, Rangers, I've covered this in a video, guys. Rangers, of course, one of the best branches in the United States, in my opinion. But also looking at Delta Force, knowing a lot about Delta Force. In my own personal opinion, like everything else, guys, it's my own personal opinion. I'm a serving soldier in the British Army, so I sway a little bit more towards the Army. So my favourite branch from the United States is Delta Force, obviously because it is Army orientated. Whereas Navy, obviously got Navy SEALs, SEAL Team 6 in particular. For me, Delta Force is slightly better than Navy SEALs, although some people might argue and say, but that's not the case, but people will always argue about it and say, well, Navy SEALs are better than Delta and Delta are better than Navy SEALs. It's the same here over in the United Kingdom, guys. You've got people arguing over SBS and SAS. The people that joining the military, in regards to the Navy, they're swayed towards their, SBS, Special Boat Service. And obviously people who are serving in the British Army are swaying more towards this SAS, Special Air Service, guys. But anyway, let's crack on with this.
The best of the 82nd Airborne, Special Forces or Green Berets, that Delta Force selects its operators. Those who make it into the unit have already served their country, often in combat.
Yeah, that's the same with the SAS, Special Air Service, guys, over here in Britain. The majority, I'd say 99.9% of people who are joining the Special Forces over here are already currently serving, in the British Army or Marine Corps. I think the most elite unit we've got in the normal British Army branch are the Pathfinders, without a shadow of the doubt. I don't know if you guys over in America have heard of the Pathfinders, but yeah, you've got the normal British Army, and then you got your parachute regiment in the British Army, which is pretty, I'd say probably for the normal British Army the hardest to do in regards P Company, all that good stuff. And then you've got Pathfinders who are slightly, above, the paras and the rest. And then obviously everything after that is Special Services, that's in the SAS and SBS, guys. And from what I'm gathering, it's exactly the same in the United States as well.
Your average age is mid-30s.
Yeah, mid-30s, average age.
Captain time in the Rangers. And then I had the opportunity to try out for the unit.
I started out in Special Forces, then went to the Selection and Assessment Program for Delta.
Started out as a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne. From there, I went to 5th Special Forces. After that, I decided to try out for a Special Mission Unit.
Trying out to be an operator is just the beginning of a long, grueling path.
To get into Delta, based on what we know, twice a year they hold selection processes.
Twice a year.
The long course.
Twice a year, so you've got the opportunity to join the Delta Force, commit, to their training, twice a year. Whereas the SAS, I believe, is also, from the last time I've heard, it was twice a year as well. But I'm not entirely sure about that. I'd have to look more into it and speak to a couple of people about that.
Designed to choose from the best combat-hardened soldiers in the U.S. military to go into the operator qualification course.
Out of my two classes of 120 people each, probably 12 to 14 made it.
90% of
That's absolutely mental, at 120 people, maybe 12 or 14 people actually passed to, further themselves within Delta Force to go on to the operator course or whatever they call it. Same over here for the SAS, you hear it all the time. Probably 95% of people applying for the SAS or SBS are failing, it is that hard, and they look for a particular type of person as well.
soldiers can't make it through selection. Of the 10% who do get selected and then go on to the operator qualification course, up to 50% of them still wash out throughout the process.
The exact standards required to make it as a Tier 1 operator are highly classified.
I don't really know what they're looking for because that's a secret, and I was never allowed to see those shiny rocks.
Everyone thinks they look like the middle linebacker for the Washington Redskins, I would tell you that's very small. You got short guys, middle guys, bald guys, people that just blend in.
It's not always the best guy that makes it. It's the right guy. That's the key.
It's true, it's the same as what that guy just said about Delta Force, it's all different shapes and sizes of them guys. I've seen people my size, short, bigger, bold, whatever, they're just ordinary guys who have got that little bit extra, to become a member in the Special Forces. But let's have a look at the foundation. How did Delta Force become? How did they get, created? That's what I want to know. So let's have a look into that. I do have to apologise a little bit about the quality of this next video. Obviously it's old footage, but he explains everything in regards how Delta Force was founded. So let's have a look at this.
Both Delta Force and the Navy SEAL Team 6 traced their origins to an outburst of political violence in the 1970s. At the time, Washington watched as acts of terror became a significant problem in Europe and the Middle East. After more than 3 decades and dozens of Hollywood movies, the U.S. Army's Delta Force, one of Washington's premier specialized units, is still largely hidden from public view. The Pentagon offers few details about the group, its organization, or even how many Delta operators there are in total. But the unit, technically the 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment-D, is a part of the Army, and has all the formal trappings that come along with being part of that bureaucracy. As a result, some of the detachment's formative history is a matter of public record. The Army originally planned Delta Force as an organization which can be deployed worldwide and has the capability to provide an appropriate response to highly sensitive situations, including acts of international terrorism, explains a 1977 analysis of the proposed unit held by the Army's Center of Military History, which keeps an assortment of records to help track Army units, their histories and honors. The staff help determine what battalions and squadrons the Army keeps, or even brings back into existence, when the ground combat branch shuffles things up. Both Delta Force and the Navy SEAL Team 6 trace their origins to an outburst of political violence in the 1970s. At the time, Washington watched as acts of terror became a significant problem in Europe and the Middle East. In 1972, Palestinian militants shocked the world when they attacked Israeli athletes at Munich Olympics. Smaller groups like the radical leftist Red Army faction and ethnic Basque separatists carried out a campaign of bombings and assassinations across the continent. One Army officer, Colonel Charlie Beckwith, was personally responsible for pushing his superiors to create Delta. In the 1960s, Beckwith embedded with the United Kingdom's 22nd Special Air Service Regiment in Malaysia. His influence...
That's interesting, isn't it? He embedded himself with the SAS, and then, Delta Force was created. I think that goes, for a lot of branches, around the globe. The majority of people have been training with SAS, and, I hate to say it, but the SAS is second to none. Let's face it. Pretty much every branch around the globe have been training and taking things away from the SAS. That's just a fact. You can't argue with facts, can you? But yeah, obviously every special unit, as in special forces, they adapt to different things and do things slightly different over time. But the majority of branches across the world, they all operate the same. I don't like to say it like that, but that's pretty much how it is, isn't it?
On his actual hand, is clearly visible in the 1977 review. Beckwith's concept for the Delta Force is based on his experience with the SAS. The proposed organization will provide a high specialized force, rich in rank structure, built upon small teams which contain mature, professionally trained, psychologically prepared individuals capable of making on-the-spot judgments, according to the narrative. These goals largely mirrors Beckwith's perception of SAS members. He was particularly impressed with their selection process. What the SAS regiment ended with, I thought, were men who enjoyed being alone, who could think and operate by themselves, men who were strong-minded and resolute. Beckwith, who died in 1994, writes in his memoir Delta Force. The analysis is also attached to a draft organizational document, called a Table of Order and Equipment. Army officials use these charts as a starting point to map out how many soldiers units should have, and what gear they need. Delta Force is no different. As of July 1978, the unit used a formal TOE that put the organization's official strength at 21 officers and 151 enlisted soldiers. The proposed organization splits the unit into separate groups for administrative duties, and troops for actual operations. Depending on the circumstances, medical personnel, intelligence specialists and radio operators from the admin side could go along on missions. The operational portion, called an E detachment, controlled 4 20-man teams, or F detachments. This naming convention followed the practice of referring to the basic building blocks of Special Forces units as A, B and C detachments. The 12-man operational detachment, as commonly referred to as a teams, are still the foundation of the Army's elite formations. In addition to larger teams, Delta had more officers, with higher ranks, than a normal Special Forces company or other similarly sized units. Today, a regular Army infantry company with more than 130 soldiers has only 5 officers. The highly sensitive nature of operations and degree of specialist training required fully justify this rank structure, the analysis states. The level of professional maturity required cannot be found in abundance among the first-term enlistees and second lieutenants. Delta didn't allow officers below the rank of captain, who outrank all lieutenants, into the unit. The minimum acceptable rank would be staff sergeant, 3 full grades above the lowly private first class. The non-commissioned officers in the F detachments would be the primary doers, the review explains. The F detachments could function as 1 20-man team, 21-man elements, or almost anything in between, according to the plan. Just like the British Army's elite troops, these fighters of the organization would have to function as single operators, the analysis declares. Unlike Beckwith, the Army expected its commandos to spend most of their time training and working with friendly forces in foreign countries, rather than launching raids by themselves. Even now, Army special operators devote a lot of time partnering up with American allies. We don't know how long Delta Force kept to this organization. The official historical data card has no updates after 1979. The next year, the elite commandos participated in the abortive attempt to rescue American citizens in Tehran after the Iranian Revolution. 8 special operators died in an accident after Washington aborted the raid. The unit might now have nearly 1,000 highly trained soldiers, wrote journalist and author Sean Naylor in Not a Good Day to Die, The Untold Story of Operation Anaconda. More recently, the secretive troops tried to save American journalist James Foley and other captives from Islamic State terrorist Syria in July 2014. The following month, the Sunni extremist group murdered Foley. And whatever Delta's structure looks like now, Beckwith's legacy no doubt continues to have an impact on the force.
I found that really, interesting. So yeah, I found that really interesting, guys. The way the Delta Force were founded, what it takes to become a member at Delta Force. Obviously, it's the same as the SAS. Anyone can do it who's got the right mindset. My personal opinion, as I already said, I think Delta Force is the best branch in the United States. Obviously some people are going to argue about it, but like I always say in my videos, it's not a dick measuring contest. Everyone can have their own opinion. But yeah, I hope you learned something from this video. I certainly took away a lot from this video. There's a lot of it got covered I didn't even know. Found it really interesting, and I look forward to doing the next reaction to another branch around the globe, guys. If you're new, again, please subscribe, leave a like if you like this video, and leave a comment, guys. I do read them. See you in the next one. Take care.